They mocked you when you spoke up. Now they are realizing you were right. You did not speak up to create a problem. You spoke up because something did not feel right and you could not ignore it anymore. There were moments where you noticed things that did not add up. The way they handled situations, the way they responded to you, and the way certain patterns kept repeating repeating started to stand out. At first, you may have stayed quiet, hoping it would pass. But when it did not, you finally said something. When you spoke, you were not attacking them. You were trying to bring clarity. You were trying to understand what was happening and expressed what you were feeling. But instead of being met with honesty or even consideration, you were met with something else entirely. They laughed it off. They dismissed your concerns. They made it seem like what you were saying was unnecessary or exaggerated. In some moments, they even mocked you as if your awareness was something to be joked about. That reaction was not random. It was a way to avoid the truth. By mocking you, they were able to shift the attention away from what you were pointing out. It allowed them to make your concerns seem less serious, and it created doubt in your mind. You may have started questioning yourself after that. You may have wondered if you were overthinking or reading too much into things. That is exactly what that reaction was meant to do. Even though you felt that doubt, something in you did not fully let go of what you noticed. The feeling, the feeling stayed with you. The pattern did not disappear. The same behavior continued even after your concerns were dismissed. Over time, you began to see that what you had spoken about was not a one time misunderstanding, it was something consistent. That realization started to bring you back to your original instinct. You began to understand that their reaction to you, to your word, said more about them than it did about you. Instead of addressing the issue, they chose to make you feel small for noticing it. That choice was not about humor or lightness, it was about control. It was about maintaining the situation without having to take responsibility for it. Once you saw that clarity, your perspective started to change. You did not try to prove your point after that. You did not continue to push for validation from someone who had already shown you how they handled truth. Instead, you stepped back. You observed more and spoke less. That shift created a different kind of awareness. You were no longer caught in the circle of explaining and defending. You were simply seeing things as they were. At the same time, the situation began to reveal itself more openly. Without your voice filling the space, their behavior became more visible. The patterns you once pointed out started to show themselves in a way that could not be easily dismissed. What you had tried to explain in words was now being said through actions, and actions are harder to ignore. For them, this is where the realization begins. It does not happen immediately, and it does not come with an apology right away. It started with small moments of awareness. They began to remember what you said. They began to notice the same thing you pointed out. The difference now is that there is no one there to explain it to them. They are seeing it on their own. What they once mocked is now making sense. They think they laughed at they think the things they laughed at are now showing up as real patterns in their experiences. That shift can be uncomfortable because it requires them to acknowledge that you were not wrong. It requires them to see that their reactions to you was a way to avoid facing something they were not ready to deal with. You on the other hand are no longer in the same position. You are now waiting for them to admit anything. You are not looking for confirmation that you were right. You have already moved into a space where where your understanding comes from within. You trust what you see. You trust what you feel. That trust is something you build through experience, not through their validation. Being right was never the goal for you. The goal was clarity. The goal was to understand what was happening and to protect your peace. Now that you have that clarity, you are no longer tied to their reactions or their realizations. You are moving forward with a stronger sense of awareness and a clearer understanding of what you will and what you will and will not accept. They mocked you when you spoke up because it allows them to avoid the truth in that moment. Now they are starting to see that truth for themselves. And while they are still processing that realization, you are already in a place where everything makes sense without needing them to explain anything.